Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing? Are we having fun? Awesome, awesome. So, our session is going to be lighthearted, but we're going to start with some facts. Is that okay? Okay. So, over 1.5 million people are experiencing both problem debt and mental health problems, according to Money and Mental Health. Financial pressure is the top cause of stress outside of work.
25% of all UK adults, that's 11.5 million people, have less than £100 in savings, according to a survey by Money and Pension Service.
25% of under 30s who have a new mortgage have opted to pay it back over 35 years or more in an attempt to make monthly payments more affordable, according to Experian.
Hi, everybody. We're Ken
And Mary
of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. Part of the reason why we're here is because Mary and I achieved financial independence at the age of 34, including mortgage-free in 7 years.
Thank you. Thank you. We're also best-selling authors of our book, Financial Joy. It's a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom in 10 weeks. So a bit of backstory about us. So I was born to immigrant parents who immigrated to the UK in the late 70s, and I grew up in Hackney, East London. Not the bougie Hackney that you know of today. And growing up, I just remembered that we never went on holidays as a family. We never ate out at restaurants. Instead, we had home-cooked foods and found other ways to make loving memories as a family. And I just remember my parents being super, super frugal when it came to money. And I guess that formed my money blueprint growing up, where I then grew up to then become quite frugal and just conscious of my spending. So my school days at secondary school, I dabbled in some entrepreneurial things like selling CDs in my school playground at lunchtime. I also did things like the paper round and worked in retail up until I graduated at uni. And I just loved seeing my money, like my savings going up and up and up. It just made me feel happy. But I didn't really have the confidence to then do something more meaningful with my money. I am the youngest of 3 older siblings, so I had the benefit of hindsight where I saw all the financial mistakes they made. And I was like, I don't want to make those same mistakes again. I don't want to repeat those same mistakes. So I then looked into reading personal finance books. I came across Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and I guess that's where my journey towards financial independence began. Yeah.
Okay, so hi, everybody. I'm Ken. I'm Mary's husband. I moved to the UK when I was 14 years old. I was born in Lagos in Nigeria. And when I moved to the UK, we started with absolutely zero, no money whatsoever. And part of the reason for that was because we had limited rights as first-generation immigrants to the UK. Anyone who's ever immigrated to a new country and began at nothing will know that it's very, very difficult. And in addition to that, I moved here when I was in year 11. You know, the worst possible time to move to a country where people have already established their friendships. And so bullying was a big challenge for me when I moved here. So coupled with that, I saw education as a way out. I noticed that the UK was organized and I could, if I worked really hard in some way, I could actually find a way through the education system and through being enterprising, which is something that, you know, my parents were really focused on, is teaching us that skill of trying to be enterprising. So I focused a lot on my education, and through that I got into university through clearing to study economics and accountancy. And from there I trained as a chartered accountant and got into the investment business and worked there for 14 years to become a chief financial officer for a venture capital business. And on that journey, I got to meet lots of people from different backgrounds. And Mary and I met in 2009, just after the global financial crisis, and began our own money journey as a couple. And in 2017, we decided, why don't we just teach other people kind of like what we've learned on our journey? And this is where the Humble Penny was born as a platform. But in 2020, COVID, we can all remember that season. It felt like too much for me because we were homeschooling our two children. I was working a very demanding job, and Mary was running a business as well and working on our platform. It got too much, so I had to quit that career, my journey. And part of the reasons why we were able to do that, Mary actually left her corporate career in 2019. But a big reason we were able to do that is because we'd got to a place in our financial journey where we felt we had that optionality where we could take that leap. So from 2020, I became full-time on The Humble Penny.
Yes, and I totally forgot to talk about my career journey, which you've touched on, but I did, my last corporate job was as an e-business analyst, which I just left abruptly to run one of our chain of nurseries when I was pregnant with our firstborn child. So I went to work with my two boys, but then it just became a bit too much, juggling work, childcare, marriage, The Humble Penny. So 2019 is when I worked on The Humble Penny full-time. And here we are today. So we were asked to give a talk on financial joy. And funnily enough, our book is called Financial Joy. So the question which I want to ask you is, what is financial joy to you? And we're going to do a little exercise, if that's okay. I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes for 2 minutes while I just read just a page from my book on, our definition of financial joy. Imagine a life where your financial situation no longer causes stress, anxiety, or sleepless nights. A life where money becomes a tool for empowerment, enabling you to pursue your dreams, support your loved ones, and make a positive impact in the world. This is the essence of financial joy. In other words, financial joy is a mindset and model that anyone who earns or spends money can use to ultimately design a balanced life of wealth and well-being. It's not just about accumulating wealth or achieving financial independence. It's about finding harmony in your relationship with money, aligning your financial goals with your values, and experiencing a deep sense of contentment and peace regarding your finances. Financial joy is about transcending the traditional notions of success and redefining what wealth truly means to you. It's about cultivating a mindset that allows you to navigate the ever-changing financial landscape with confidence and resilience. We choose joy because it is a deep and lasting sense of inner contentment and delight. It is a profound emotion that arises from within and an independent of external circumstances. Joy can be present even during challenging times, such as recessions or when the cost of living rises. Okay, so you can open your eyes now, if you did close them.
So, what does financial joy mean for you? Have a think about it for just a moment. It will be different for everybody. But for Mary and I, in essence, if I had to summarize financial joy, the financial part, it's like bringing two worlds together. The financial part is about that journey towards building wealth, towards one day becoming financially free. It's what we want. But the well-being part is about what we need. And we all know that you can't really have wealth if you haven't got well-being. A lot of people focus too much on the wealth journey, but actually don't focus a great deal on the well-being that's required to do that. So tied to that, we want to just read you some extracts from a little bit on what financial joy means to us, whilst you reflect on what it means to you as well. So one bit we picked out on our journey for the financial part is this. Here's an example. It's to invest in our pensions and max out our individual savings account, our ISAs, allowances each year, investing in 100% globally diversified stocks with a bias for ethical stocks, and rule out moving to a bigger house.
And for the joy side, it's to ensure that 20% of our family income is spent traveling to dream world destinations such as Europe and across Africa. with the hope of just exploring the local culture, history, and doing this with our children, making beautiful memories. And we aim to travel 2 to 5 times a year. Now, note that we said 20% of our income. It hasn't always been 20%. It used to be 0%. Then it went up to 5%. And then after becoming debt-free, we then increased that number to 20%. Yeah. So let's get practical. What does financial joy look like to you? And I don't know if you had a time to think about that personally, but would love to hear from somebody in the audience what a life of financial joy looks like to you. A mic should be coming around.
It's the freedom to have the options to choose, so to have that optionality that you mentioned before. I think that's the main for me.
Beautiful. I think a lot of people can relate to that. One more person.
So sorry. Hi, thanks. I think for me, and maybe it's also quite relevant to London, is actually not having lifestyle creep, which is very difficult. And you need to be very intentional about it. But I think that's one thing that really gets into the way of actually meeting plans.
Wow, love that.
That's a big one. Lifestyle creep. Oh.
There was one more just in front, I think. Did you raise your hand? Yeah.
Definitely would be do anything that we want for our family and to travel, and also have no worries for the future for us and our children too.
Love that.
Thank you, guys.
So we brought a small gift for you guys. It's a quiz that we created, a bookmark. So if later on, if anyone's interested in our book, we'll be able to give these little quizzes to you guys. You're absolutely going to love it. It's aimed at helping you to work out what we define as your financial joy state. You can do it in like 2 minutes, but it's a little quiz that will really help you to really look across different aspects of your finances in like 2 minutes. Now, in case you're wondering, why is it that Mary and I focus so much on financial joy? Like, why does it matter so much to us? Now, I can think back to a moment that really Mary and I refer to as a point of no return. These are events that, when they happen, really change your life. For some people, it might be divorce. For some people, it might be redundancy. For me, I remember it very, very clearly. I got back home. I was heading home from work. I'd worked my way up in my career. But then, with higher income came long hours, a lot of stress. And I'd worked a lot of hours for a few days, and I hadn't seen Mary or our children very much. And I remember heading home, the train journey around 12:30 a.m. I'd caught the last train, and I was walking home. It was raining, it was cold, it was dark. All I could see was just foxes. We live in Kent. And I was just trying to make my way home. I was thinking to myself, it's just the vision I had when I wanted that career, that C-level role, that LinkedIn, really shiny LinkedIn title. When I wanted all this, is this really what it looked like? I got home and I thought, whew, it's warmer here. I'm at home. Mary had crashed out and gone to bed. I got in, fell asleep right next to Mary, got up 3 hours later to use the bathroom, and that was the last thing I remembered. As it turned out, I collapsed. I hit my head on the sink, and Mary would find me lying on the floor. Do you want to just share how that felt for you to see it?
It was just so nerve-wracking. It was just the scariest experience. And Ken was panicking when he realized what happened. And I was trying to reassure him whilst hiding the fact that I was like super freaked out. And I think that for us that situation was a point of no return, where we just said, look, we can't do things. We can't do life like how we've been doing it before. Like, we need to really assess our lives and really think about life design more intentionally and what that looks like for us, and just make sure that we incorporate that well-being into our life whilst pursuing what we want. So, yeah.
I remember 3 hours later, I called the 999 number. The ambulance didn't want to show up, even though we'd said I'd just hit my head on the bathroom sink, because they were so overwhelmed with so many calls that night. The ambulance would show up 3 hours later. And I got in, he's sitting there with so many people waiting to be attended to. And I just thought to myself, how have we got here? How have we got here? I'd got there by overworking myself. And I remember making a video on my phone just to remind myself that I don't ever want to be back to this situation. And that weekend, after I got discharged and stuff, Mary and I took some time out to just head out and reassess how else could we design a life that truly works for us? One that really balances wealth and well-being, but not just focus on the financial element at the cost to our well-being, which ultimately needs to be the foundation. So you've heard at the beginning, we said we achieved financial independence at the age of 34, including mortgage-free in 7 years. How did we do that exactly?
So our approach will be different to everybody else's because there are different ways to achieve financial independence. But we believe in trying to own your own home, if you can, and over time paying off that house whilst investing in other assets like maybe business or in the stock market. We moved out of London, so we're on the outskirts of London, just so that we can have the size house that we want to without the big mortgage. And it meant that we didn't have to borrow as much money. And again, we were able to pay off our mortgage in 7 years. And because we focused on it, we were able to achieve it. It was like a big goal for us. You know, we hung it up on a wall, like our vision, and we literally tracked down every month that we made overpayments. And doing that, it dropped our monthly expenses massively. But whilst we were paying down our mortgage, we were also investing in other areas, like as a stock market, which I mentioned before, business and property, which helped us along the financial independence journey.
We'll be going into a bit of detail in a minute on the exact strategies we've focused on for our mortgage freedom, because I think that really is very important. But I think what's often ignored is the softer aspects of what's helped you build the right mindset to be able to go on the journey. So one big area of development for us was that Mary and I focused a great deal on our personal development journey. So we did a lot of retraining. So I mentioned earlier that I trained as a chartered accountant. But in addition to that, I blagged my way into, well, I say blagged, but I applied and did an MBA at the University of Cambridge, got accepted, got in there, did an MBA, and obviously that meant increasing my income over time.
A lot of the funding for that was by your employer, so you were able to get a lot of funding for that.
Yeah, I got half of it funded by the employer, which is excellent. Mary also retrained to move from working in the corporate world to working in childcare, managing a nursery and that sort of stuff. So a big part of the journey has been not letting that lifestyle creep that you refer to really, really overtake your life, which is very difficult with social media, but really trying to curb your lifestyle. But as you really work hard on increasing your income, you create a much bigger buffer that then gets invested into other areas, such as, overpaying on a mortgage or maybe investing in the stock market. We also took some really important risks. Like my mum, for example, as I mentioned, moved to the UK in her 40s with nothing, with 4 children, no money at all, and was just hustling to try and make a way for us as a family. One big thing I never forget, she came to us and said, I've got a business plan to start a nursery. And we almost fell off our seats laughing. But Mum was dead serious. And that nursery changed our lives because that business plan she had was, she didn't see how her grandchildren were going to be able to afford childcare. So she said, why don't we just start our own? Why don't we just create our own nursery? Why don't we just begin our own thing so that we don't have to fork out so much on childcare? This is what we did. We began with 1 branch and it grew to 4 branches over time. So all our children, as well as my sister's children and so on, all then went through that process of having their children educated at a nursery that we started ourselves by taking some risk, borrowing some money and putting that money into a business that we didn't really know whether it might work out or not over time. So a big part of the journey for us has been almost banishing that employee mindset, which is the mindset that you're always just waiting for that paycheck, but also thinking, well, actually, I've got inbuilt skills, I've got opportunities around me, I need to find a way to leverage all of that to help myself to move forward. Another point I wanted to make was that we did other things as well as a way to really help us on this journey. We took on a lodger at home. When Mary and I met, we were like, listen, we've got a spare room here. Let's try and get a bit of money in. and tried to use that money to help ourselves. We took on this guy from Malaysia who was fantastic as a lodger, and he was great for us as a way to make some money. But overall, we wanted to just say that as the summary of our approach is that we focused on trying to become mortgage free. Like I said to you, we started this when interest rates were at rock bottom. Like, people were not trying to overpay their mortgages. It wasn't a smart thing to do financially. But for us, we had a different vision. And this is why if you're trying to achieve your goals in life, you can't pursue the same path as everybody else. Not everyone might believe the way you want to go. And so for us, focusing on that mortgage-free journey has really been a game changer, particularly as interest rates started to rise later on. It also required making a lot of sacrifices. So for example, we used to drive an Audi. We had to get rid of it. Bought a 2013 Nissan Leaf, cash down, £9,000. We've had the same car. We still got it today. We still drive it even today. Even at 80,000 miles, we're still driving that same car. It functions. It takes us where we need to go. We haven't needed to subscribe to that need to keep up with everybody else just because everybody drives a nice car, or you're supposed to because of Instagram. So we haven't done that. We bought a cheaper home, like Mary said. We moved out of London. We really focused on what we wanted. We even went plant-based for health reasons, but in addition to that, it also saved us some money.
Yeah, so he had this crazy idea for us to stick to a £50 food budget, which when he...
Per week.
Per week, family of four. When he suggested that, I just laughed. And every week I'll do the shop, he'll be like, oh, babe, what did the shop come up to? Oh, babe, it came up to 60 or 70. But in the end, I decided, look, let's just try to actually do this. And like Ken said, because we switched to plant-based, it was actually possible. And I was motivated to actually stick to that budget. I mean, it just meant that I shopped in Aldi, and whilst we were working, whatever food we made the night before, we packed it. Also packed lunch for work the next day. And yeah, we were just able to make it happen. What else did we do? We stopped at having 2 children. That's a bit controversial for people because some people are trying, and yeah, it's a bit of a controversial one, but we stopped at having I wanted 4 kids. Ken wanted 3. But I think after having 1, I was happy to just stay with 1 child, to be fair. So that kind of worked for us. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up by sharing some really quick fire tips on how we became mortgage free, because I think that's very important. Do you want to share some of
Yes,
those?
I'm going to read this out because there's a few numbers. But the tip 1 was by overpaying the mortgage each month. So imagine you're paying an average interest rate of 5% on a £250,000 mortgage over, say, 25 years. £100 a month overpaid saves £26,000 interest and wipes 3 years off the mortgage. £500 a month overpaid saves £83,000 interest and wipes 10 years off the mortgage. £1,000 a month overpaid saves £112,000 of interest and wipes a whopping 14 years off the mortgage. The second tip is that we relied mostly on one salary, and the other salary just went straight to the mortgage, overpayments, and also stock market investing. Yeah, so to live on one salary meant that we really need to stick to that £50 food budget. We didn't want to pay off our mortgage over 25 years because we understood the maths and the power of compounding and debt, and we just wanted to beat it.
Yeah, in addition to that, we overpaid the extra in terms of where you think the money came from. It came from our salary, any bonuses at work, any side hustles we were running on the side, any money we made went towards making sure we were trying to create that freedom for ourselves in the future. Every single month, we didn't just pay 1 mortgage payment per month. We were paying around 2 or 3. If I found 50 quid or 20 quid in like Mary's jacket or in my jacket, I'm like, this money is like not working. Like, we need to use it and make it work.
No spare change was actually safe in our house.
Yeah, and that was, it worked out because every time you saw that mortgage coming down, you felt motivated, right? We also remortgaged a few times and to reduce the interest rate and also the number of years on our mortgage through remortgaging. Now, one thing people talk about is there's this 10% mortgage cap on your mortgage that everybody gets when they get a mortgage. One thing we did was if you use a mortgage broker, you can get mortgages without a 10% overpayment cap on it, which is brilliant because it means you can then overpay however much you want without incurring the early repayment charge. So this was another hack that we figured out on our journey. Again, we focus on keeping the lifestyle simple. Every time you feel that itch to want to spend your money, you have to think, hang on a sec, what is the cost of spending this money? What's it really costing me over time? Yes, we were having fun. We found really affordable ways to enjoy ourselves. We love traveling. Mary and I have been to more than 28 countries around the world over the last decade. You know, planning, saving, booking our holidays about 24 months, 12 months in advance.
Avios points.
Yes, Avios points, collecting it, companion vouchers. So we found quite savvy ways to make sure we still enjoyed ourselves, but still focusing quite intentionally on this journey of creating that freedom we wanted for ourselves. Overall, it took us around 10 years to achieve financial independence, but this will be different for everybody. We share this just to say that everyone is on an individual journey, so you should never really compare yourself to anyone. It's very important to know you're running your own race, and the key thing is to have the vision you have for your life and have a timeline, which is why we say creating that life of financial joy really matters. But I want to just point out some specifics before we wrap up on why financial joy, how it's actually changed our lives. Financial joy has been a complete game changer for us. We don't wake up every day with any money worries or any stress anymore. Even though we experienced that in the past, it no longer is something that's our reality. We're doing work we love today. We run our platforms, and we've chosen that. I could have been working those 14-hour days in my corporate job, but we don't do that anymore. We work 4 days a week, about 6 hours a day, Monday to Thursday. And we really enjoy our working hours. It's improved the quality of our marriage. Can anyone notice how beautiful my wife looks today? Which means like fewer arguments and, more date nights, It's improved the overall quality of life of our household, which means our children are raised in a stable home, which wasn't really the same for me because I moved a lot and, which creates a lot of difficulty with raising a family. And we feel more free to travel and do the things we love. And this is what we want for everyone.
Yes.
This is what we want for everyone.
Yes.
This brings us to the point where we say,
Yeah, guys, I echo everything Ken said. Financial joy is achievable. You can all achieve it. And financial joy is definitely something that you should seek to try and achieve for yourself. As we mentioned before, we wrote a debut book, Financial Joy, and it's available to order. So find us, I think, somewhere at the back where we'll be signing copies, and we'll also have the bookmark and the quiz for everyone that purchases the book today.
but other than that, just wanted to say any quick questions you might have for us. Okay.
Sorry, no time for questions, but you can
You
find
can come and
us
find
at the
us
back,
and
and
we
we'll
will
love to
answer
catch
all
up
your
with you.
questions. Is that okay? Apologies, I think we exceeded our time, but thank you all.
Sorry. Thank you all. Thank you.